Um, and is there any relation to this, that famous death tax they talked about 100 years ago? I know that from what I could understand, for the average everyday person, we wouldn't even come close to such a thing. How does probate work? How do taxes work? And the other thing, Roger, is that it's been my experience that a lot of times attorneys don't understand the tax implications of some of the things that they advise us to do.
Mhm.
So how do you make the best decisions for your clients at the same time understanding the tax implication if certain properties are moved and what that could
Yeah.
mean on the tax end?
Well, I mean, number one, if you're an elder law attorney, you should basically have a good working. Maybe a general practitioner would have a little
Sure.
more problem because they don't have as much experience.
Mm.
But I mean, people come to me and they've got this stuff all mixed together. They've got nursing home stuff mixed up with probate stuff, mixed up with estate tax stuff, and it's, oh, if I do this, I avoid the nursing home, avoid probate.
Mm.
They're really different areas. We talked a fair amount about the nursing home stuff. Probate, as we discussed a little bit earlier, basically any asset that a person dies with in his or her name alone has to go through a court process. If there's a will or a trust, it'll pass by those. If there's none, it'll go through an intestate formula. Estate taxes really has to do with the amount of assets that are in your estate, either when you pass away or that you've given away while you're alive. All right, and for most people, they don't need to worry about it. Although with the value, well, at least with the value of what the real estate
Used to be.
was
Yes.
up here in eastern Massachusetts, where a house might be valued $500,000, $600,000, you're not that far away from the cusp.
What is the cusp?
Well, the cusp for most people is $1 million, because $1 million is what the Massachusetts threshold is.
Mm-hmm.
The federal threshold, as you may know, is in flux. This year, the estate tax went away. I think it's going to come back. I think it'll come back at probably $2 million per person, maybe as high as $3.5 million. So once again, for most people, it's not a big deal.
I would celebrate if I had to pay taxes because I had $0.5 billion in assets coming
Really,
my way.
really. But for the people that it does affect, if you have over $1 million, and that's the value of anything that you have, it doesn't matter if you hold it as a joint owner, if it's in a trust, it's the value of anything that you have. So if you have a house that say is worth $500,000, and then you have $500,000 of other assets, or more than that, you have a taxable estate.
Life insurance doesn't qualify, though, does it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does.
Unless it's held by a life insurance trust, which is a whole nother thing.
Okay.
If you have life insurance that comes into your estate, say $500,000, that gets added to your estate.
Oh,
Yes,
it is.
it does.
Oh,
it does count.
I thought it avoided all those
No,
taxes.
only
Okay.
if it's in a life insurance trust, which is a whole nother ballgame.
Okay.
Okay. But estate taxes, so if you're over $1 million, then you have something that you might want to think about, that you can do some things, because a husband and wife can actually double the amount that they can leave estate tax free, but that doesn't happen automatically. What tends to happen is husband and wife either own things jointly or the named beneficiaries of each other, so that one passes away, the second one has the whole ball of wax. And then when that person passes away, if they're over $1 million, they're going to pay estate taxes on the amount that's over, not on the whole thing, but on the amount that's over $1 million.
I see.
And estate taxes are substantial. You may be talking about 30% of that or 40%
Oh, really?
of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Husband and wife, if they do it right, usually with a living trust, is that when the first spouse deceases, you can break off the amount over $1 million for what's called it's got a zillion names, AB trust, credit shelter trust, family trust. Basically for a trust for the first deceasing spouse, which the second spouse can have access to if it's written in a certain way, so that when the second spouse dies, the $1 million from the second spouse is going down estate tax free. Say the $500,000 or the $700,000 that was broken off of the first spouse, because it was actually broken off, can come down estate tax free. So living trusts,
Kind of like a divide and conquer way.
it's a
Yeah.
dividing thing. So
Okay.
living trusts are often used for estate taxes.
Does this
but
run in conflict, Roger, with any of that, the stuff we talked about as far as protecting your home from nursing home care? Does that stuff sometimes run in conflict, depending what's the most important to you?
Well, it can and it does, but it confuses things. Because basically, if you're in the situation where you're over $1 million,
You're going to get that insurance we talked about earlier.
you have the insurance, or you'll never qualify for state assistance
get
just
you.
because you have too much
I get you. Okay.
in assets.
I get you.
When it comes to estate taxes, So it's if you're under substantially under $1 million with the value of your house, with the value of any other assets you have, regardless of how they're held, then don't give estate taxes another thought.
I see.
If you're above the $1 million or close to the $1 million, there are some things you can do as a spousal couple to double that amount. And one thing that confuses people is the $10,000 a year gift, which, by the way, is $13,000 a year. And that's an estate tax formula. People who are going into a nursing home ask me that all the time. So they have a mother who's going into a nursing home and she has to go right away. I say, well, there's the 5-year disqualification period. They say, well, aren't you allowed to give $13,000 a year to every individual? That's not for a Medicaid situation. If you do that, you're going to pick up a 5-year disqualification period. What the $13,000 a year gift is, and a lot of people confuse this, is say you have an estate worth $1.1 million, and say, I know I can leave $1 million estate tax-free. You can give away $13,000 in every calendar year to a single individual without it lowering your estate tax cap. All right, a couple can give away $26,000 per individual. So say you have a single individual, a mother, she's got 3 kids, she's got $1.1 million. She knows she can leave $1 million estate tax-free. So year number 1, she leaves.
So it's like that 100,000 is around $40,000 taxable at that point? Is that just so we're clear?
The whole 100,000 will be.
Oh, 100,000 taxable at that point,
Yeah,
100,000.
what would the tax be? I don't think it would be quite that high on that slight overage, but it would be substantially taxable.
Sure, okay.
All right, so the first year she gives away $13,000 to each of her 3 kids, and let's forget about interest and stuff like that for a second.
Okay,
So she's
sure.
she's depleted her estate for $39,000.
She can give as many as she wants to as many individuals as she
As
wants?
many individuals, don't have to
Okay.
be kids.
Okay.
Second
But
year.
you can't do more than 13 to any particular individuals. Is that how it works? So I'm clear about it. In other words, I can give
Well,
chunks
this
of
is the-
13 all over the place?
Right.
Okay.
This is well, each year. Then
Okay.
say the next year she can give $13,000 again to each of the 3 individuals.
see.
And the next year she can give $13,000 again to each of the 3 individuals, so that in those 3-year period,
The 10
she's reduced her estate from 1.1 million to 1 million. So therefore, that 100,000 that would have been subject to estate taxes no longer is.
I see.
Now, you say, well, you can't give more than that. Say you do a transfer of a house, all right, or put your kid on as a joint owner, all right, and the house is worth $400,000. So you've made a gift to one particular child in a year that's worth $200,000. You've exceeded what you can give a single individual in a single year by $187,000. That gets deducted from your $1 million estate tax cap. So that when you die, instead of being able to leave $1 million, you can only leave $813,000
Tax-free.
tax-free.
Right, okay.
Okay, because you've given away $200,000 in a particular year, which the excess of that, $187,000, is
Still taxable in a way.
well, it's deducted from your overall estate tax cap that you can leave.
It's a little convoluted, but I think I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why you have to watch the loop 2 or 3 times.
That's right.
But you'll pick up on it.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, if you're in a position to give these gifts because you want to reduce your estate, once again, $13,000 a year.
Can that knock off each year? Can you call, like, say if I gave you the house, like my house is worth $400,000, and I give you $200,000 in assets, can I count that?
I know what you're saying.
No.
The answer is no.
Okay.
I mean, you're making a one-time gift of $200,000.
I see.
They just say, hey, you're 187 over, so when you die, instead of having $1 million to leave,
Okay.
you only have $813,000 to leave.
Okay.
But what you can do is every year the 13 to these 3 people, next year 13 to the same 3 people, next year 13 to 6 people if you want.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so
Are those gifts taxable when you receive them? Do you pay taxes
no,
on them?
there's no taxes on there's no inheritance tax in Massachusetts. There's no taxes on the giving end, and there's no taxes on the receiving end.
Okay, so that's pretty good. You can receive 13,000. I wish I had relatives who had to give me
Well, there you
13,000.
go.
I don't though, Roger. That kind
No.
of concerns me. You also wanted to mention, and we didn't mention it at the beginning of the program, but you were concerned about it. There's some sort of scam going on.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a scam. It's actually, technically, it's not a scam, but I've had about 4 clients call me in the last 2 months, and this has been going on for a while. Usually, if you do a deed, I'll record a deed at the registry, and the registry, I'll have the registry send the deed back to the client. Seems about 4 months after this happens, my clients get a letter from some place called the National Registry. I think it's in Illinois. And they say, they make it sound like you have to get your deed from the registry. It's not even that, if you want to get your deed, it's like you have to get your deed from the registry. And to do that, you have to send them $60. All right. And I've had clients saying, geez, it sounds like I need to do this. And all it is they're saying, okay, these are newly recorded deeds. If you pay us $60, we'll go make a copy and then send it to you. Well, the fact remains is for you to get a copy of your deed, should you not have it for whatever reason, at the registry, it costs you $1 a page. So you got to drive to the registry. You got to make a copy of a 2-page document, which is maximum is going to cost you what, $5? So anyway, since I've gotten 4 calls on it in the last 2 months, and I'm assuming there's a lot of other people. And people send it in because it's the type of thing. It's like you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to register your house through
The
this.
wording in the lettering.
So it's a scam. It's called National Registry or something like that. And I guess if they want to sue me, here I am. Come and get me.
I've seen that more than once, though, Roger. That's something that is kind of legal, a legal document or something that someone will offer to get it. And if you don't know the ropes, you don't realize that document's actually available for you for free.
Yeah.
And these little businesses get in. Somehow they get your name on a list. I don't know how they do it.
Well, this is how they do it. Is basically in these 4 cases, it was all people I had recorded deeds for, say in the last 6 months.
But I wonder how that gets to this group. I wonder how they found out that information.
There's a zillion ways to get it. Banker and tradesman. You can get registry lists, no problem.
Can anybody get your deed then?
A deed like a probate will is a public document.
I see.
You can go down to the registry of deeds. All the deeds are on file there. It's not a private document. Yeah, it's not tough to get deeds.
I see. So they just go down there and have someone run off a
have
bunch
somebody.
of these.
Yeah, they say, okay, this was recorded there, and we'll send out these notices and see who sends stuff back.
Wow. And I've seen them, Roger. I've had them here. They do it to businesses too. They'll tell you, you have to do this thing, and you might have to, but it's really a simple, free thing that you can do very easily. But they sort of have this wording that really scares you, and you feel like you need to send them off a check.
It seems to be effective wording.
Yeah,
and God knows how many people have actually sent them stuff. And thank God those people who called me.
And you just say, no, you don't have to do that at all.
I say it's a scam.
Right.
It's like a mini scam. They're not asking you for a couple of $1,000, but $60 is that you don't have to pay.
Right.
Why pay it?
Right. And if several people respond yes and give the $60, it's very profitable.
It's got to be very profitable.
Wow, that's really. I'm glad you had mentioned that, Roger. Roger, we have a few minutes left. Anything particular that you want to emphasize about these documents, or anything more that you want to say about them?
The open-ended question. Let's see. We talked about Homestead last program. Homestead, a very good thing to have, by the way.
We didn't talk much about it, though, because just
Well, I just talked about people's detrimental reliance on Homestead, thinking that it gave nursing home protection when it doesn't.
It's slip and slide falls, but I thought your insurance company took care of that, too, or does it give you a little extra on top of your insurance?
No, it's just basically protection against suits. It's saying you're not going to get thrown out of your house because somebody falls on.
And you only can protect one home, correct? You only can correct.
Yeah, well, you can only. It's for owner occupied only. All right. So certainly a good thing to have. Just realize that it's limited in scope. But for $36, it's hard to go wrong.
Right.
We talked about living trusts.
And all kinds of things along with that line.
They're flashing lights.
They're flashing lights. They're telling us that it's time to finish up.
It's time to finish up. And in summation, my fellow Americans.
But it's good to know, Roger, because it does seem like, just to name them briefly, the wills, the trusts, and the medical elements, the durable power of attorney was part of all of that. But the living will and the HEPA, and the last one I can't see without my glasses, healthcare proxy.
Yeah.
All
Well,
those
I mean,
things we've got to take care of.
basically, as I say, to me, this practice, elder law estate planning, is about core documents. It's about nursing home protection. It's about probate planning, and it's about estate taxes. So those are generally separate items, even though they're related. So those are the areas that this discipline touches, anyway.
Well, Roger, thank you so much for
Okay.
coming on the program and talking about these issues and talking about these documents. Thank you for joining Canton Community Television on elder law and some of the documents all of us need. My name is Tanya Willow. You've been watching Canton Community Television. Thank you.